What a wonderful family she has. They're all laughing as she's about to die in the street.
I bet that woman drives an SUV. She can't operate a little scooter, but yet she drives an SUV. I guarantee it.
I just think that's a perfect example of women operating any kind of equipment at all, period. Like, it's just a good example of what you ladies do.
You know what's surprising? 50% of our audience is women. They still watch us.
I know, but they all know they can't drive. I think we have a very self-aware female audience. They're all pretty good. Yeah, we have Connor returning. We were supposed to do a show with Connor last night, and I told Connor I could do it, not remembering that it's my son's 18th birthday. So I asked him we could flip it to tonight. And so we're going to do an hour on Avoiding Babylon, and then we're going to go and do something on Connor's channel, but it won't be live. So he'll be dropping that on Christmas, I believe you said, Connor?
Yeah, Christmas.
Well, now you just gave it away that we're recording it tonight, but acting like it's Christmas.
Yeah.
Just were we supposed to do that?
Okay. Yeah, we're supposed to pretend it's.
And I'm all dressed festively like usual. I didn't know that. I had no. You guys got to tell me these things. I'm terrible.
You don't read your texts, apparently.
Did you actually say that?
He does when they're from Calvin Robinson.
All right, I deserve that. Sometimes you guys text me and I'm like in the middle of driving and I'm just like, all right, that's happening. So yeah, this we weren't sure which direction we were going to go with this tonight. I was pretty done talking about this document because it's been spoken about ad nauseum, but it seems like this thing is causing quite the stir in the church. Like, there's entire bishops' conferences coming out and making statements saying flat out, we want nothing to do with this thing.
So far, I think literally the entire continent of Africa has come up with something resisting it. I'm serious. I think every bishops' conference in Africa has said no way.
Their response is, "Why are you gay?"
Why are you gay?
Oh, that's amazing.
But it just seems like this is kind of a moment in the church because it's so funny. I'm watching how people that are saying that there's nothing wrong with this, I'm wondering what they're reading. Like, how do you interpret this as being okay? I mean, it's such a self-contradictory thing. And you know that it's being used as a way to weaponize this thing. I mean, I know I said it last time, but it really is basically just giving priests permission to go and do this without repercussions from their bishop. So everybody's making a big stink out of the James Martin thing. But I mean, I think he actually followed it to a T. The guys were not dressed in suits as if it's a wedding. They were doing it pretty informally.
He wasn't wearing any vestments.
So it seems like,
although it is ironic that the New York Times was there for a spontaneous blessing.
Oh yeah, this thing was not just that, but the I think James Martin actually came out with, I don't know if it was him or the couple came out with a statement saying, yeah, we got a text this morning asking from Father James Martin if he wanted to bless our marriage. So like James Martin actually blessed their marriage.
God rebuke him.
Well, yeah. Did you see the what was it? The outreach. What was it?
Yes.
What his that Instagram post? I mean, it explicitly talks about marriage in the post.
Yeah, that's where I'm grabbing that from. Do you have a screenshot of that, Rob?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I probably should have.
I thought I might have, but
that one.
I do. I could probably pull it up.
I'm going to try to mute every time I cough, but I can't promise I'm going to. So sorry.
Yeah, everyone's saying Ave for Rob. I know it's like a tough cough.
Rob, what was the thing you were saying that Lofton was caught in a lie? So Eric Ibarra posted Metropolitan Hilarion expressed shock and disagreement with Fiducia supplicans, whatever however it's pronounced, and yet Lofton this morning said Hilarion agreed. Am I missing something? Was he trying to catch Hilarion in a contra?
I think
I can share the image if you want me to share it.
Of what, that tweet?
The Instagram post.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I think I don't know for sure, but I think Lofton more or less used a part of the video that where Hilarion said he agreed with the 2021 statement, saying that you cannot bless sin, and Lofton claimed that Hilarion was agreeing with the new statement
because he thinks that the 2021 statement and the new statement are congruent with each other, that they're in continuity, when in react that's just coping sophistry that he's promulgating. That's all it's doing.
So Lofton saying that by Hilarion agreeing with the 2021, he's automatically agreeing with the new one, but in reality Hilarion said he was what was the word?
He was shocked, or something.
Shocked.
Yeah, we've gotten a bunch of different things, but let me just see something. Rob, do you have the actual the title of the video? What did we pick?
Yeah, I have the Diane Montagna from Müller.
Yeah, from Müller, because that's the one I wanted to actually talk about.
That's the one you didn't send me. You sent me two other ones by Diane Montagna, and you didn't send me that one.
And Rob, I sent you the picture. I can't share it on this. I don't know why.
How did you send it to me?
But on Twitter, on DMs.
Okay.
Man, there's a couple of things going on here. So, Cardinal Müller confirms Vatican doctrinal office had a file warning about Fernandez. Like, there's so much going on right now with this. But all right, I got the Müller thing. Okay. Let's see. Blessings for gay couples are blasphemous. So the prefect emeritus for the CDF dismantles the arguments of the declaration, I'm not even going to say the name, that opens the door to blessings for irregular couples and calls on priests and bishops to avoid such blessings. The only blessing from Mother Church is the truth that will set us free. With the declaration FS on pastoral significance of blessings, the DDF has made an affirmation that has no precedent in the teaching of the Catholic Church. In fact, this document affirms that it is possible for a priest to bless, not liturgically but privately, couples who live in a sexual relationship outside of marriage, including same-sex couples. The many questions raised by bishops, priests, and laity in response to these statements deserve a clear and unequivocal response. So part of what they did in this thing is they changed the definition of what a blessing is. Did you notice that, like, they kind of underhandedly changed what you would always understand as a blessing? They changed what the definition of a blessing is. The statement clearly contradicts Catholic teaching. Are the faithful obliged to accept this new teaching? May the priest perform such new practices that have just been invented? And can the diocesan bishops forbid them if they were to take place in his diocese? To answer these questions, let us see what exactly the document teaches. So, I mean, I don't want to go through the entire article here.
One key thing he mentioned that I've seen some other creators say that I thought was really good is that he uses the term blasphemous, and it's because anything analogous to the holy sacrament of matrimony, which God has instituted for the salvation of souls, any LARP fake nonsense, which is what this is a blasphemy. It is mocking a sacrament. It's mimicking a sacrament. Even if they try to use all the language of this is not a wedding, it's not a marriage, it's not liturgical, yada, yada, yada. It does not matter. It's a Marxist form of blasphemy that just is trying to reinvent the wheel. That's all that it is.
Because sacramentals come from the sacraments.
Exactly.
So if this blessing is a mockery of a sacramental, then it's really mocking marriage, like you said, and it's sacrilege.
And Satan will always try to do that, right? We always talk about that famous quote of him being the ape of God. It's 110%. And so Satan is crafty. He's getting it in there, and he's going to be like, yeah, it's not a marriage. I'm not touching the marriage, but I'm just going to do practically every single other thing that it does.
It's kind of similar how in the exorcism of Annalise Michel, the demons claimed communion in the hand was their doing.
100%, 100%.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of this that like I can't help but like put apocalyptic undertones to it, and I see a lot of people are getting so dismayed over it and they're leaving the church. Like this is like the final straw for a lot of people, but I really think people need to prepare themselves for humiliation. Like we are going to come under some severe humiliation in the coming times. You're going to be mocked not just by the general, like the outside world. You're going to be mocked by Protestants. You're going to be mocked by the Orthodox. You're going to be laughed at and just made fun of because we have this kind of stuff going on. It's going to get worse, and I think it is a severe test of faith right now. Like you really have to see it as Christ before the Sanhedrin, as the Messiah, and they're all spitting on him, laughing at him. You're the Messiah. Then when he's up on the cross, like, oh, if you're really the Son of God, come down from that cross. Like it is going to look like the church has lost all of its outward signs and appearances of being the church. So it's one of those things where it's you have to wonder what the line is like with us even talking about this stuff, because you can't go the Lofton route. You can't just pretend this isn't happening, but at the same time you want to make sure you don't discourage people to the point of leaving.
Literally dozens of Catholic saints and even dozens of Catholic moralists and manualists in the latter half of the first half of the 20th century predict what we're going through right now. So Catholics should understand that like this idea of a church where just nothing ever bad happens has never existed. The church has always gone through severe trials. Think of it. The French Revolution, the French government made a fake Catholic church, right? A certain, let's just say, Asian government, just in case we get struck by YouTube, a certain Asian government likes to create a bunch of LARPing fake bishops, right? And then that's the Catholic Church.
We need to come up with a good name for them, like we have the Amish.
So true.
I had a friend try to convince me that I could still be gay now because the Pope said so. So look, all right, here's what I'm going to say. I got a couple of phone calls the past couple of days after our last show from previous guests on the show. I got a couple of phone calls where, because the reason I made that statement just now is because people were cautioning me against coming down too hard about bashing the Pope because of it was kind of like how I said,
people are still on that. We can't criticize the Pope at this point, really.
Pope, but giving ammunition to the other side. And I think I convinced this person, because this person almost came off like they were like, look, do you have a problem with the document? We could discuss the orthodoxy of the document. And I just started breaking it down. I'm like, listen, I don't like, Rob, can you bring up paragraph 31?
Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah, try to find paragraph 31, because they were pointing to paragraph 31 and saying, it does say that you have to see yourself as a sinner and all this stuff, but the way it's worded is so specifically ambiguous about not pointing out the specific sin we're talking about, that because all of us could go before God and say, oh, we're sinners, So I want to actually show.
And even then, later on in a few paragraphs, it says something along the lines of, you can't there can't be too many rules. You can't do everything so strict.
Well, they gave me a scenario. They gave me a scenario where this could possibly work. Now, this could possibly work. Let's say it's a same-sex couple that are already in this union, and something happens where they have their heart has, maybe they're having some kind of a conversion experience, and they're looking to not live an active lifestyle in that area anymore. And they both go to the priest and they say, look, we're both exploring Catholicism. Is there any way we could have your blessing? But my point was, there was never a time where if that had happened, a priest would not have said a prayer for that.
Right. That has never been not allowed.
That has never not been allowed, right? So the whole idea of a document coming out saying this stuff is actually giving cover to the people who want to do this. And it's such an earth-shattering event for the church itself, because you have I mean, could you imagine if the response to Traditionis was like this, where you had entire bishops' conferences just coming out and saying, "No, we're not following this. You cannot, you can't do that." I mean, obviously, this is a moral issue, and I would think, obviously, so this is actually touching not just on discipline, but on morals, right? So I understand why people are more willing to come out and say something. But okay, let's just go through this. Within the horizon outline here appears the possibility of blessings for couples in irregular situations and for couples of the same sex, the form of which should not be fixed ritually by ecclesial authorities to avoid producing confusion. Like, you've already caused and produced confusion.
We called them couples,
which comes from, it implies they're copulating. That's where the word comes from, as Kennedy Hall has pointed out.
Recognizing themselves to be destitute and in need of his help, do not claim a legitimation of their own status, but who beg that all that is true, good, and humanly valid in their lives and relationships be enriched, healed, elevated by the presence of the Holy Spirit.
Can there be anything true, good, or valid, human or not, in an inherently sinful and evil relationship?
And okay, so that cries to heaven for vengeance.
So you remember in like the synod prep, this goes back even further than that. This goes back to the last synod, not even the synod on synodality. This goes back to the one where whatever the synod on the family, where you had people in that, like, kind of planting the seeds for this, starting to say, well, couldn't we just raise up the things that are good in these relationships, like, because we're Catholic, and because they use that weird trick where it's like, well, as Catholics, we look at other religions and we say, well, there are some truth in those religions, so we talk about the good and the true in those religions that we can agree with. We don't just take the whole religion and throw it away, which is a very new thing that the Catholic Church does, by the way. But they're using that same logic to go into these relationships.
I was going to say, you couldn't have that sort of logic without Vatican II. I mean, 100%. That had to precede this sort of stuff.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, you don't get any, I said this, I think, on several shows before, but you don't get this without, number one, Vatican II downplaying mixed marriages in the context of religion, being like, it's not a perfect situation, a Catholic and a Protestant marrying, but, there's some good that can come of it. Then that led into a Morris, right, with all the ambiguity there, being like, well, at least they love their kids. Can't we at least bless the kids? And it's the same train that's led it on to here. You don't get this document without the seeds of the council. 100%.
Hey, I just got a text. My little brother's wife just went into labor, so everybody just say,
"Oh wow!"
Say a little prayer for my little brother. My little brother's about
awesome.
That
is awesome.
Right. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
well, can I do a little devil's advocate here? So I've seen this interpretation of the document, and I just want to throw it out there that this is just an opportunity to pray the gay away.
Most of them are gay. Most of them are gay.
What do you mean? The people
most of the guys writing this are gay. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Well, but it's interesting just that, like, sort of that the way I read it when I read it first, that's in some ways it just seems more like the production of this letter or this document is more the problem unto itself. Because, of course, the way people are going to be interpreting this is going to be widely different. And that's literally what we're seeing across all the Catholic world, is everybody's interpreting it a little differently. And if you can't write a document that is clear enough to everybody, I think there's a problem.
100%. Return to Thomism.
Also, Nick, I heard a priest say that that Pope Francis's origin comes in Thomism. What do you say to that?
It's a joke. It's
okay. Well, I think it could be valid. He hates Thomism, so that's where his origin lies.
There's multiple quotes in Pope Francis's books that openly ridicule neo-scholasticism. Openly ridicule it. He openly ridicules what's called casuistry, right? Applying like moral theology to certain sections. So Pope Francis would say, for instance, like us, right? We would say, okay, the church has said X about sodomy, right? It's wrong. Here's the chapter and verse, if you will. Here's what the magisterium says. But he would say, well, you're just applying the magisterium to this situation. You need to be in the situation and walk with them before you start saying things and right, discern what the Holy Spirit is saying. But my friend, the Holy Spirit's not going to make up a new interpretation. He already spoke. Scripture is clear on the matter. The magisterium is clear on the matter.
This whole idea of divorcing the dogma from the pastoral thing, this has just gotten so out of control. So Pope Francis, in his Christmas address to cardinals and bishops, Pope Francis said the real division in the church is between lovers. Okay, so it's not between conservatives and progressives. The real division is between lovers and those who have lost that initial passion. No, the actual division is between Catholics and those who claim to be Catholic but don't actually believe the Catholic faith, and that's where we're at right now.
If you love me, you will keep my commandments. Clear as day.
I just think they're into a different kind of love.
That's what I was thinking. Lovers in a different kind of meaning.
That's why I said they're all gay. That's what it is.
Why are you gay?
Well, we're at a point where there's a significant portion of the church who does not believe the Catholic faith, but yet wants to continue to claim the moniker of Catholic. Like they want to remain in the church somehow. Not just remain in it, they want to control it and run it and claim the name Catholic while not simultaneously believing what the Catholic Church teaches. So even with this whole scenario we're looking at right now, this is exactly as Marxism. Like it's twisting words around and playing around with the wording of things so that one side could pull away from, I mean, people that you actually, that you would, I mean, Father Mark Goring came out and said he liked this, that this was a good thing. And then you get someone, I mean, Bishop Barron basically said a non-statement. He's like, well, here's my statement on
Bishop
the
Barron.
And it was a
Bishop Barron, so
yeah, he just
he had an
opportunity.
He had an opportunity to come out and say something powerful. I mean, you're seeing people that you wouldn't typically think say something coming out and say something. Like there's no way you could think that there was any other intention of this document but to give leeway to those who want to do something disobedient.
100%. You don't see this type of like rampant ambiguity 60 years ago. Not at all. And it's because, like, as you pointed out, Anthony, there's a large percentage of people who want to claim the moniker, the title of Catholic, but don't want to follow the teachings. They're not Catholic. Because to be Catholic, according to Pius XII, you have to believe in the same faith according to how it was always believed, receive the same sacraments, and submit to the same heads of the church. If you're not believing what the church has always believed, you're not Catholic. That's just as simple as it is. Because heresy is one of the sins that actually removes you from the body of Christ. You can commit another sin, right, and become a dead member, right, through mortal sin, but still be in the church. But heresy removes you from the body of Christ. It severs you from it because it's destroyed the virtue of faith. So they're just not Catholic.
What do you think this does for the next conclave? Do you think the people have such Francis fatigue?
Oh, 100%.
I do too.
I think the entire episcopacy has Francis fatigue.
100%.
When you lose the British, you've lost them, man.
That is kind of low because the British bishops are not that great.
British bishops, I mean, again, I'm not just here to trash, but man, like they're bad. I've read so many statements from them in my dogma classes about where they just openly deny the inerrancy of Scripture, believe openly in limited inerrancy, which is a condemned proposition of Vatican I and Leo XIII's papacy. It's a joke. So yeah, if you've lost them, you've gone too far. I have friends who are seminarians in Rome right now, and they just say there's this cloud of absolute terror over the city. Everyone is terrified of this guy.
Of Tuco or Francis?
Francis. They're all scared of him.
He has he's known to be just an angry cuss in private.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I even saw, Gordon made a video the other day that was kind of going over some of the paperwork of the bishops in Rome who actually were in the process of appointing Pope Francis, then Bergoglio, as Bishop of Buenos Aires. And they were going through their file and they were talking about how, yeah, this guy is off the wall. He's very, very rude in public, right? He's very uncouth in his use of language. This stuff was known back in the day, right? There's so much that's out there, but people refuse to go and read it.
Yeah.
Man, that's funny.
I just hate that I think so many people are losing sort of their joy and like during this Advent season because of this. Like,
yeah, what a time to do this to us, right?
Like the most
They always do this.
Time.
They always do this. To
That
us.
is what Marxists try to do. I mean, Anthony, you've listened to the anti-human episode by Martyr Maid. Like, they break you down. They try to just tear you apart so that you will do whatever they want you to do.
I'm fired up. I'm actually fired up. I'm like, because it's like maybe it's a man thing, but it's like if you're at least gonna come out of the closet and just admit that you're just erroneous, at least I know where you stand.
Yeah, I almost wish they went further in it. I really do. I almost wish they went further. Look, guys, you have to understand the whole thing has to come down, and there has to be a schism. I mean, there has to be. So you kind of, as painful as all this stuff is, and as like, I know it could get daunting at times, but it has to happen, and it has to get way worse in order for a real, like, you need to separate the wheat from the chaff, and not with, where you have just some rogue bishop goes and starts a new church. No, you need a holy pope next, and you need them to split. So if you get the progressives go too far here, the reaction on the other side at the next conclave will come down harsh, and you'll get somebody in there. I know a lot of people think there's not a single candidate that is good, because there's slim pickings, man. It's like, is there even a candidate that could fix this mess? Because
I really think if there was ever a time in the last millennia for there to be a non-cardinal made pope, it's now.
Man.
Isn't Erdo of Hungary pretty good?
Not sure.
I thought, and he's supposed to be palpable, so
Papa Bile.
Yeah.
Not palpable, it's Papa Bile.
I prefer palpable.
Yeah. See,
like
it couldn't be a Vigano. Vigano's like way too
he's too outside like the main
Erdo's popular with the conservatives, and he's friendly to the traditional Latin Mass. From my understanding,
Burke wouldn't actually surprise me. I was thinking about this the other day, like, because of the way he was treated when it came to his apartment and his pension, it would not surprise me if they're just like, you know what? We've had enough of this nonsense. Why don't we just throw Burke in there and see what happens?
I don't think the Cardinals like Americans.
He would be the only American that would even fit the bill, right?
I don't think Americans are on the table. For these cards.
You'll never get an American pope.
It depends on like what group, because it's like, with these African bishops being absolute chads, it's like you never know, they might do it. There's a fair amount, I feel like, of Eastern support that they can probably get, like from Asia, but yeah, from Western Europe, they're just like, this document didn't go further enough because we want to get married.
Where were the condemnations from Africa? I didn't see them.
Well, speaking of Africa, this is the first time since 1975 there's not a single African in the Curia. Francis has basically banned black people from the Curia because the African.
Can you make a video about that? Or can you just make a clip?
Just clip this, yeah.
This is the first time since 1975. I just saw Catholic Sat tweet that.
Wait, what about isn't there a liberal African cardinal?
I don't think he's African.
From South Africa, I think.
Like
starts with an N.
Oh yeah.
So Rob, what do you mean?
No, Anthony, no, do not.
What
do
you mean, Rob?
No, do not.
Don't you make an end joke at a time like this?
Oh my
Come
gosh,
on, Rob.
no.
That was the end of Avoiding Babylon's history.
Wait a minute, Nick. You're the one that said niggling.
Turkson? No, Togley's
Nick
Chinese, isn't he?
Nick said the word. What was it? Niggling.
Napier, Cardinal Napier.
What does that word mean? Because I have no idea what that means.
What the word niggling?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
It's like an expression of like weaving yourself into something. That's
Because
all.
you made me very nervous when you said that on our channel that night. I was like, whoa, wait, what? I never heard that word
What's
before.
the guy, Rob, again?
Napier. I actually got into an argument with him on Twitter once.
Wait, really? Is he not
about gun control?
Does he have a C? Is that why he's not in the Curia?
Where is he from? Like, what country?
South Africa.
Of course.
The
most liberal country.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised though that they've not have any Africans, because let's be honest, Africans like actually policy, like very good social policy in their countries, and so
yeah. Listen, and you're dealing with a first off, they're very faithful, right? They're very traditional in their like people. That's why it was so funny, like the accusations of racism from like when they were accusing us of not liking Francis because he's from Central America or something like that.
You can't
like
even get it right. He's from South America.
Yeah. This is
he's Italian actually.
This is white supremacy, right? So that's the irony of it. He's really of Italian descent.
He's basically black according to 19th century WASP standards.
Well,
but
yeah.
I think we would all.
But WASPs aren't even in the Catholic Church to begin with, so we don't need to listen to them.
I think we would all welcome a faithful black pope. I think it would be an amazing thing, right? There would never be it's never going to be along racial lines. It's going to be along orthodoxy.
Could you picture Sarah, like Cardinal Sarah, like he just becomes pope? He rarely speaks, but when he does, it's just absolute majestical amazingness. Like you read his books, picture his books, but in encyclical form. Oh my goodness, that would be amazing.
Caitlin, a WASP is a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. But so how do you think a Sarah would be though? Because a Sarah, he's very much Benedict. He's like a student of Benedict.
Mm-hmm.
He's very pro-Vatican too.
He really would.
He would. That would be amusing. I think he would be. So now Sarah wouldn't be my first pick when it comes to like my Dreamcast. But the reason I do think Sarah would.
Are you even old enough to know what a Dreamcast was?
Yes. But I think he'd be interesting just because he's the type of individual that when it comes to matters of like the interior life and personal holiness is top notch. Like you read his books, you read a paragraph from his books and you just sit there and you contemplate your entire life. And so I think that he would definitely, he's spoken out pretty harsh in a good sense on social issues. So I think he would come down and clarify a lot of things. I don't think he'd go where we would want him per se to go. In the total reversing of all the madness of the last 60 years.
That's my concern, right? But I think he would go enough in the Orthodox direction that you would have your schism. And I think that he's definitely I think he's well liked amongst the other cardinals. He's not a troublemaker, he's not outspoken. They would see him as maybe a more return towards Benedict, but I do think he's even more traditional than Benedict was. I mean, this is, I do think he would even actually rein in some of the disasters of the Novus Ordo, and I think that would drive the other side insane.
I think he's too old, honestly.
He probably is too old, but I think he'd be like a moderate reformer. But like a moderate reformer is better than no reformer. And
no, a moderate reformer is schism. That's what you have to really understand.
Anyone to the right of Francis at this point.
Yeah. But see, I'm like, that's in a certain, like, and it's good in a certain sense, because
if you could get a moderate reform next, after that you would get it, because he could make just a few appointments that could be, you know what I mean? Like that. What Francis did in 10 years, man. You think about what he did in 10 years. I mean, what's crazy is that the things that we're coming up on, right? It almost seems like Francis was too impatient to wait for the synod next October to come to a close, because maybe he's worried he won't make it there. And he's like, I better.
It comes to close next
October.
Next October?
Yeah, it's 2 seconds.
Oh.
So it's next October, and if he's even slightly worried that he won't make it there, maybe that's why he's There was on the liberal side, there was some very high hopes for the things he would do. They were talking about what Francis could do in 5 years he's been in there 10. And while Benedict was alive, Benedict was a type of restraint upon him. He really was. He was a type of restraint upon Benedict upon Francis, where Francis didn't want to completely insult Benedict while he was still alive. And ever since Benedict has passed, he just passed last December, and look what he did to Schneider.
The angel on your shoulder.
Well, he's a type of a catacomb, Yeah. He really is in some sense. I'm not saying he's the catacomb from Scripture, but he was a type of restrainer of some of the crazier things that we're seeing. Think about what they did when they even mentioned married priests. It was Sarah and Benedict wrote that book, and it threw Francis for a loop, and he just totally took it off the table. Do you think any of these conversations that we're having right now would be happening if Benedict was still around?
No, I this might sound weird because I'm not a charismatic, but like I remember telling all my friends when Pope Benedict passed, I said, I just felt, if you will, in the spirit that this next year is going to be the unleashing of a wild ride. And we've seen it. There is no repercussions upon the heretics that are running here, there, and everywhere, all over the church. None at all.
None. The only repercussions that happen anywhere are to those who, I'm telling you, the only sin there is these days, the only thing you could do wrong these days is disagree with Francis.
100%. I literally hung out with, Bishop Strickland a week and a half ago. I hung out with them for a couple days.
How'd that go?
It was pretty awesome. So like he shows up, and I could definitely kind of see like, I guess the effects that it's had on his outer demeanor, his face, understandably so, because it wasn't just, for those of you guys who don't know, it wasn't thus that he was just canceled as being bishop of the diocese, but he was also prohibited from saying mass in his diocese.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane stuff. So he's weird by that, but yet he had so much hope that the church is going to survive this. It's going to pull out of this. And he can, every natural right, if you will, to complain, not complaining at all. He's just like, God is in power, God is in control, entrusted to Our Lady. He's been praying the rosary, very faithful, dedicating himself to the Sacred Heart, offering up this as a penance for the sins of individuals in the church. And he's just started a YouTube channel that I think within like 2 days already has like 40,000 subscribers. Some crazy.
Must be nice.
You couldn't wrangle the interview?
Well, see, it was time and place. I didn't want to be like that guy where it's just like, oh,
you need to be me, bro. You gotta be more like me.
But I am gonna be working with him a bit, because I did give him all my information to help him kind of make his channel a little bit more robust on the aesthetic side. But yeah, he has so much hope.
Well done.
So much. He just is encouraging everyone. He's kind of like, he's kind of like Burke and Schneider at the moment.
I think he's more brave than Burke even. Look, you could say whatever you want about Strickland because he was a big proponent of Vatican II for a long time, but I think you're talking about a guy who could have just quieted down and kept his position.
Status quo. Yeah.
He could have just backed off. When they came for that visit, he could have just said, look, I'll get off social media. I won't do this anymore. Just let me tend to my flock. And he could have done it in good conscience, saying, I do better tending to my flock here than I can if I'm removed. And instead, this man doubled down. And every time he saw something, he said something. And he came out with statements proclaiming the truths about marriage and all. You guys forget about the timeline of events that happened to that man. Like, that man really did put his faith on, put his position on the line for his faith. He is somebody you can absolutely look up to and you can admire. The guy is, he's an admirable person. Cal Zeldin says, got to remember these guys were products of their formation. I think he saw things changed. I did too. And he didn't go off the rails like I hate to say it, like Vigano. Like Vigano started going into the political realm and talking about Trump and you know, like he made it so that people don't take him seriously anymore.
Yeah, it's a messaging thing. You always just have to stick in your lane best you can, unless of course the lane gets muddied. And that's exactly what Strickland did. It's like Strickland, he's not, you know, what I would call, you know, the absolute stellar Chad Bishop, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I'm a Lefebvreist, right? I'm guilty as charged.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like he did an absolute stalwart job at defending the holy sacrament of marriage, which is being blasphemed currently. And yet he's being destroyed for it. And all of this, you know, like I mentioned this earlier in a text message to you guys, all of this nonsense is rooted in the absolute independence of man from God, which is just classical liberalism. Man wants to be independent from God and be its own autonomous creature. And that's exactly what's going on right now. We're saying, okay, we can separate this idea of a couple, which again, they're not couples, right? Sodomites are not couples, right? It's a sin that cries to heaven, and we're going to separate that from God's original design, which is the only true marriage. And it's just satanic liberalism.
Yeah, I always try to urge, because I think some trads get so caught up in the liturgy stuff that you gotta really think about what is really happening here. This isn't a battle over the liturgy. This is a battle over the faith, over the truths of the faith, over the look. The most wicked thing going on with this document is not even that it gives the leeway for the priest to do this thing. The most wicked thing that's really going on with it is that it's giving people who are practicing this lifestyle the false impression that the church is changing its teaching and that it is going to accept their behavior. That is so vile and evil, because either that is a lie, straight up perjury, right? Did you read the SSPX statement? The SSPX was like, this is either a vain wish or straight up perjury, because that really is what it is. This is either them knowingly falsely giving them hope and leading them to their own destruction, or it's just the most vicious lie in the world, or they actually think they can change God's law. And if that is the case,
they don't believe in God's law, so they absolutely think they can change it.
Right. But Rob, then why hasn't Francis come out and said something ex cathedra? I mean,
it's the Holy Spirit.
But right. But I think I agree with that, right? Like, I do think the Holy Spirit will prevent him from doing that. But what I'm saying is, why not make the attempt? Like, I think he would be struck.
Maybe he has. But we don't know. Who knows?
You never be surprised at the power of Almighty God and what he can do. But it's like, I think it's like you said in your guys' video about this the other day, Anthony, you wisely said that either these individuals who are writing this are just like the absolute worst theologians, should just never be in the job, fire them immediately, cancel it, etc., or it's nefarious. That's the only conclusions you can get. And it's clearly nefarious. And so the reason why I don't think that they've come out 110% is because they know, like, okay, yeah, if we just come out and say homosexuals can get married, everything's fine, right? It's going to unleash something to where it's just going to completely fall apart. So they're political. They're smart. It's the Overton window. It's the gradual.
Right. Just shift of the Overton window. And it's just incremental steps towards, but it is vile what they are doing to people, because there's no, look, if they did come out and do something, like if Francis did attempt to do something like that ex cathedra, it would completely nullify every single claim the Catholic Church ever made.
Well, I think if he attempted to do that, I don't even think that it would nullify the church. I think it would nullify him.
Yeah, his papacy, and I think enough people would. Right, but I'm saying if it was attempted to be accepted, is what I mean, right? Yeah. So, like, if there was any attempt to actually make this be accepted, that's what people don't grasp. This goes down to something as simple as the teaching on birth control, and you know, that how many people came into the church because the church is the only place that stood its ground when it came to birth control, while the whole world was caving in on this moral issue. The church said, no, we cannot do this because we are not God and we cannot change. We don't define good and evil. God defines good and evil. We just simply affirm what God has already, proclaimed.
I wonder if if Francis has thought about trying something ex cathedra, and those are the times he's ended up in the hospital recently.
You never know. It's like, to me, this is what's interesting. And again, for the record, I accept Pope Francis as the legitimate pontiff. But it would not surprise me, let's just put it this way, if he was to pass away, right, et cetera, and another pope was to come along and just say, yep, this was not the papacy. Benedict was pope, he resigned validly, and then we had 10, 13 years or something of an empty spot, right, et cetera. I wouldn't be shocked. Let's just put it that way. Like, I'd be like, okay.
So Colby says Anthony doesn't believe Francis is pope, hence the comment. I don't, dude, I try to be as honest as I can with you guys. Like, I'm agnostic on this. I don't know. And I say it's totally possible he's not. Who am I to make such a, who the heck am I? Like, why would I make that? Why would I want to even who the heck am I that I would ever lead people to try to believe so? That is such a huge statement to make, that Francis is not the Pope. Like, I would never dare use my opinion so flippantly when I have a platform that people could be influenced by something I say. I just don't. I don't know. Like, I have no idea, guys. We're all in the same boat. Anybody who claims to know for sure, it's a Pope. Who am I to judge?
That's great.
Our audience is the best. They're always there to tear us down whenever they can.
I think you're 100% sane, Anthony. I don't think it's insane just to have at least questions or even to be agnostic. I mean, I think you can search and debate things out in good faith, but I mean, come on, like, no, if you were to go back in 100 years ago to 1923 and tell the average Catholic walking around that this is what we're discussing, they'd say, oh, did the modernists win? Did they actually win? Did they prevail? That's 100% what they would be saying.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you this. Like, we're talking about all this stuff, and we're saying, I mean, I even made the statement that the disagreements in the church are not about liberals and progressive. It's about Catholics and non-Catholics who claim to be Catholic. If I'm making that statement, the leader of those non-Catholics claiming to be Catholic, right? Like, is Francis Catholic? Now, what does that mean? I mean, yes, he's a baptized Catholic, right? He's obviously
so is Joe Biden,
right? But that's my point, right? So do I think Francis believes the Catholic faith in the way that I understand it? No, clearly he doesn't. Clearly, he doesn't.
That's not even a question. Come on.
Which begs the theological question on, is he Catholic? Because again, it's like it's the matter of faith that determines whether you're in or out, right? And again, I'm not making a definitive statement, but I'm
me neither. But it comes down to
on the external, you could understand why people don't think he is.
Okay, so now if we're Catholic, we believe that a soul in mortal sin, when they die, they are separated from God and they do not get to behold the beatific vision.
Right.
That's hell, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can someone lead souls on a path and think that there's something pastoral about that? If you believe that, I just don't understand it. Like, how could you please make it make sense to me? Like, how do you claim to believe that and then still like think that there's some form of mercy in lying to people?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. People, the copers out there will say, well, you guys are just misunderstanding what he's doing. Okay, let's just say we are, for sake of story. Let's just say we're completely misunderstanding everything that the Pope is saying. You got to admit, at least, that it's the worst implementation that could possibly come out. That it's completely practically useless. How do you lead people to salvation by saying, okay, we're not going to put you guys in a marriage ceremony, but we are going to have the most well-known heretic online just start following the directives to the T, quote unquote, calling God's blessing down upon people, even though the original teaching of the church is this is a sin that calls vengeance down from heaven. There's just no way. So either
did you see all the people, all the Pope splainers? You had Lofton, you had all the usual suspects, all talked about how great this document was. Then Lofton put out a video with James Martin blessing those two guys and said, this is why this is wrong. Okay, but now when Francis specifically, like what they're trying to make you believe is that Francis is trying to encourage people living in that lifestyle to be chaste, and they're praying for them to have the strength to be chaste. If that was the case, Francis's photo ops would not be with New Ways Ministry, Sister Gramick, and James Martin. They would be with the people from Courage. Right? They would be with those people, because those people actually are helping people with this attraction, and those people are encouraging people to live chaste lives. Those would be the photo ops you would be getting, but you're not. So now Lofton making this video about James Martin, saying this is why this is wrong, and then people are going, James Martin needs to be disciplined right away, and it's about time he just gets defrocked and all this stuff. It's like, guys, not only will he not be disciplined, not only will he not be defrocked, you will have him brought to Rome for another photo op, and Francis will say, there is no other interpretation but this, just like he did with the Brazilian bishops when they came out with the Amoris Laetitia thing. And the postulators will then have to wiggle their way around to show how this is part of the magisterium and this is actually a good thing, because in their minds, this scenario can't happen.
Didn't you mention, Rob, that like you got into a battle on Twitter with something that was like Canadian monarchist?
Yeah, the Canadian monarchy respecter.
It was like coming out and was saying like, how dare this guy not follow prerogatives, right? I need to call his superior and I need to report him to Rome. Do you actually see? This is the problem. So many of these guys think that they're living in like 1909 or something with like the Chad magisterium of Pius X, where you could just call a superior, if you will, for lack of better terms, and get that guy fired. His superior's probably been doing it for years behind closed doors.
His superior's a Jesuit, right? I mean, so yeah.
You can't, like, this is the problem. I see with some of these guys, they want to have like the zeal of a Tridentine era Catholic, but then somehow think that leftist policy can be meshed with it. It doesn't work.
Before we get off, there was one other thing. Okay, well, first off, so you do have all right, so you did have what was it? The British bishops came out with a statement. The African bishops came out with a statement. A whole bunch of people came out and said, this
Schneider
is it.
And his archbishop did, yeah.
The Kazakhstan archdiocese came out with stuff, right? So then the German Synodal Forum on the German Synodal Forum on Sexuality co-chair praises the Vatican Declaration. The Germans are claiming they laid the foundation for this. We had already laid the foundation on the act of blessing. Blessing is one thing, and a sacramental marriage ceremony is another. We would like the act of blessing to have its own dignity. Until now, there has always been the question of whether the church's teaching on relationships and sexuality had to be changed before a blessing could be given. In the current declaration, it's the other way around. The doctrine has not yet been changed, but the blessing is possible. We are firmly convinced that God has long since found himself in the love of this couple. We are convinced that all the people are created and loved by God, and that the image of God also applies to their gender, identity, sexual orientation. The German Synodal Co-Forum.
God rebuked them.
Notice how they claim that God changed. What was the sentence, Anthony? God has long since found himself.
So the actual sentence was, oh shoot, I lost it. Hang on. We are firmly convinced that God has long since found himself in the love of this couple.
So they believe that God can change.
We're convinced that all people are created and loved by God. Okay, so then the one last thing I wanted to touch on this episode before we go off and do Connor's thing. St. Mary's College, the Bells of St. Mary's College rescinds their transgender policy. Did you guys hear about this?
I did see it on Twitter, yeah.
Okay, so St. Mary's College, a women's college in South Bend, Indiana, has decided not to implement its plan to enroll male students who identify as female. They were going to this is a Catholic college.
Oh my.
The Bells of St. Mary's was going to allow men in dresses to enroll.
Just St. Mary's. That's just what they called the article.
Wait, isn't it
after the movie?
Isn't it near Notre Dame? Isn't it like the sister school of Notre Dame?
Yeah, South Bend is where Notre Dame is.
Yeah, that's the sister school of Notre Dame. So it's not surprising Notre Dame's very notorious. So
pagan school. That's all that is.
Okay, so the college leaders cited division in the community over the planned policy change. When the board approved this update, we viewed it as a reflection of our college's commitment to live our Catholic values as a loving and just community. We believed it affirmed our identity as an inclusive Catholic women's college. This is so insane, man. This
Saint
is
Michael rebuked them.
But this is also why, like, this ties into the other thing, because all this stuff is connected, right? All the rainbow stuff is all connected with this.
Rudy is a Mormon now.
Who's Rudy? Oh,
what?
Rudy the movie?
Oh,
all right,
you've seen it, right?
Yeah, I didn't know if he was actually referencing specific Rudy. All right. So, moreover, we clearly underestimated our community's genuine desire to be engaged in the process of shaping policy of such significance. College leaders apologized for the division in the community and announced an upcoming series of listening sessions to explore what it means to embrace our values as Catholic women's college. They reiterated their commitment to move forward on a journey toward equity, inclusion, and justice. We believe it's like
everyone
just dropped it.
Everyone just go watch my video, Is the Conciliar Church the Catholic Church? Shameless plug, but it just answers all of this nonsense 100%.
Just
and the first 5 minutes is the most BA video I've ever seen.
Greatest ever. That opening, man. Holy cow. But this is the point. We are in a situation of Catholics versus non-Catholics claiming to be Catholic. Like, there's nothing Catholic about this woke gender ideology stuff. And that is why it is so despicable and evil that we have Francis doing photo ops with transgender couples. Like, no, this is not Francis and his mercy. Go, look, Jesus ate with sinners. No, it is giving a nod and a wink to this ideology that is literally destroying people's lives.
Why is it that the German bishops are the ones coming out and saying, this is great, this is amazing? Mm-hmm. When Michael Lofton in 24 Hours apparently has a catechism that says that if you don't think that this is even normal, like clear and normal and in conformity with the 2021 document, you're in mortal sin. Like, how on earth does that work?
How do you whip a catechism together in 24 hours?
Because
if you've been notified like a week or two in advance, probably.
100%. We've already heard the Vatican say multiple times that they're angry at, quote, American trad keyboard warriors. So they're going to employ whatever people that they need to do fodder, if you will, to get people back on their side.
He is their propagandist that lays the foundation for them, and there's nothing genuine about what he's doing. He is actually just on a propaganda. He's their propagandist. He's one of their ministers of American propaganda, and he goes and he lays the foundation so that people will swallow this stuff and that they won't think critically about it. Because if you see that there's some orthodoxy in the beginning of the text, you overlook the problematic things. And Michael Lofton is the king of sophistry, which is making it look like there's an argument there when there's no argument there. I mean, that's what he does. It's that in that catechism there was a section that actually said, not only is this needed and the Holy Spirit guiding us there, but this is how we should have been doing it all along. First you show people God's love, and then you tell them about the it was sin.
Like the church's inner practical judgment, right, essentially been wrong for 20 centuries on this. So how do you get Leviticus to somehow line up with this document? It's an absolute joke.
So he can disagree with like you said, 20 centuries of the church and think the church was wrong for 27 centuries, and yet be in communion with the church, but yet we disagree with one document and we're the schismatics? Are you joking? I mean, come on.
It's because it's just Marxist brainwashing. That's all that it is. They changed the language. They use the term couple. The Germans, they talk all about, or the bells of St. Mary, right? They're just like, we want to have inclusion, equity, more commie buzz language. It's an absolute joke.
This thing has been behind me for the past 3 episodes, and I just realized.
I was kind of going to
ask. Somebody said, he goes, Anthony, what is the level for behind you? Symbolic? And I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? It's a level behind.
I was wondering.
I was doing some measuring in the basement last week.
We know one thing it wasn't getting used for. Hanging pictures.
Hanging pictures. No, it wasn't.
The whole situation reminds me of sort of the scene from what is it? A Man for All Seasons, when Thomas More is telling the Roper that he's a heretic, And the whole like I just pray that your head finally when it stops turning,
stops spinning,
that it will just be forward.
So we actually just reviewed that movie, Rob, Father Dave Nix, and I 3 weeks ago. And all right, so we're gonna wrap this up because we're gonna go on to Connor's show. But coming
we have to go and pretend like it's Christmas.
We're gonna go pretend it's Christmas. Those of you who saw this show will know the inside joke, but the people in Connor's audience won't have a clue. We are Tuesday coming up. Anthony Stein and Matt Gaspers. That's a big show. I'm excited for that one.
Yep.
I talk to Stein pretty much every morning on his live stream at 4 a.m. on my ride into work. So
remember, it's Plot Lines, everybody. That's my channel, Plot Lines.
I was just about to let you plug it.
Okay. Well, I just did.
So yes, Connor's channel is called Plot Lines. Connor and I did an interview a couple months back. We were discussing women in politics, and I'm sure you guys know it was probably a misogynistic rant that I went on or two there.
There's it really didn't get that many views, so people really need to check it out.
Yeah, you guys should definitely go and check it out. But we will promote the show we're doing tonight with him on Christmas when it comes out.
So it's not going to be live. You can't go over to a show right now, unfortunately, guys.
We're going to pre-record it, and it will come out on Christmas. But you guys should all go subscribe to Plot Lines, though. Connor does a lot of great interviews.
Freaking Orthodox. They show up right when you're ending.
Right when we're ending.
Come on.
I want to get Christian on, though. We're gonna have him come and hang one night. We'll wait until it's not like a hot topic.
Christian, we're waiting for you to do, especially in light of everything that's going on in Rome, another Michael Lofton rap. We're waiting. Hold on.
Is that his name? Is his first name Christian?
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh. I'm gonna base it off of the name. So
we'll finally get to the bottom of, is it Mario or Mario?
It's Mario.
It's Mario.
Is it scenario or scenario?
Scenario. Who says scenario?
The people who say Mario.
You guys all say scenario.
Scenario. Yeah.
Scenario.
Here we go, y'all. So what's the scenario? That's an old one for you old folks.
I knew his name wasn't Christian.
Oh, shut up. We're calling him Christian.
I'm just going off of what it says. So
just going to call him Mario.
Mario. That
YouTube's most fiery rapper.
Okay, I got to go change in a Christmas sweater, okay?
All right, I'm not going to do that, but I'll pretend the red is for Christmas. Connor, we will see you in a few minutes, guys. Check us out Tuesday. Go subscribe to us on Locals. Please support us, guys. Me and Rob are in the poorhouse. I can't even afford Christmas presents, and you guys are so cheap. Please go over there and subscribe to us. Our audience is the worst. Thank you, guys. That was my pitch.
Don't believe him, guys, but please support us.
We'll see you guys next time.
What am I going to play?
This goes out to all you men out there who are inclined to submit yourself to the lowest faculties in the most pathetic manner. You effeminate man think you were created in order to consume endless amount of pleasure without any consequences? Put your damn video games and smartphones down and pick up something heavy. Do something arduous for once. Pray daily. Submit yourself under the interior discipline. Learn a trade. Buy some land. Get married and have lots of kids so that may you one day raise a generation of virtuous warriors. Learn the rules of the retrograde. Go with y'all.